Kawhi Leonard, one of the best players in the league who can turn it up even more in the playoffs. He's the Clippers' best player now, and he's probably the best player ever to play in Toronto. But now I actually want to take a look at where it all started. The San Antonio Spurs, because with everything that's happened, it's kind of forgotten already just how much of a dog Spurs Kawhi was. So let's take a look. How good was Spurs Kawhi actually? The San Antonio Spurs is a damn good franchise, one of the best teams in the history of the league actually. And Coach Greg Popovich is also considered one of the greatest coaches in NBA history, which makes it all the more impressive that Kawhi Leonard is considered to be a maybe top 5 to 6 all-time player, and Coach Pop has this kind of respect for him.
For a second.
Pop's on the mic.
Stop all the booing and let these guys play. It's got no class. It's not who we are. Knock off the booing.
I mean, who would be in front of him, right? Tim Duncan, David Robinson, TP, Manu, George Gervin, then Kawhi. Seems fair. That's pretty good company. And talent-wise, he might even be top 3, which is very impressive, considering the type of player he was before getting drafted. Kawhi in college was pretty great defensively. He was smart, quick, and very hardworking already. And it didn't hurt that he had a very good frame combined with a 7'3" wingspan. At 6'7", that's pretty crazy. Of course, he also has hands as big as Michael Jordan's. Offensively though, he wasn't really as polished. He was good, but he didn't really have much moves. His jumper looked like a slingshot too, which isn't really recommended. Still, he led his San Diego State Aztecs to several high finishes in the NCAA tournament, averaging 15 and 10 in his last season before they fell to Kemba Walker's UConn. He then declared for the 2011 draft, also probably one of the greatest drafts in NBA history. I mean, Kyrie, Clay, Jimmy Butler, Kemba, Vooch, IT, that group was loaded. I didn't even mention guys like Tobias Harris, Bojan Bogdanovic, Reggie Jackson, the Morris twins, Tristan Thompson. Kawhi was against pretty elite company. He was eventually taken 15th overall by the Pacers to San Antonio for George Hill. And so there he goes, off to Texas, which just seemed like such a perfect fit. He was quiet and reserved, but had a huge upside to unleash. And who better to unleash it than Coach Pop? And vets in TP, Manu, and Tim Duncan, they also didn't really have an established small forward at the time. And pretty early into the season, he was already inserted into the starting lineup, and he's pretty much been a lock since then. It was always some version of Kawhi on the wing. TP at the point, DeJuan Blair and his non-existent ACLs, and Tim Duncan. Kawhi was a fantastic fit and hard worker, as that utility wing tweener who defends like a monster, but isn't exactly Andre Robertson on offense. 24 minutes a game yielded 8 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist a game, as well as a pretty good 1.3 steals a game. He finished 4th in the Rookie of the Year as well, behind Kyrie, Ricky Rubio, and Kenneth Faried, who I just remembered was drafted in 2011 too. But something promising was his 38% from beyond the arc. Sure, it was barely 1 attempt a game, but it's something. Definitely better than 20% from 3 in his college days. And anyway, he wasn't really there to be a score-first, 1v1, beat you off the dribble guy. He's not even there to really score at all, anyway. He's there to be a piece in that beautiful San Antonio machine that played team-oriented basketball. Regardless, he would improve all his stats in his second year, putting up 12, 6, and almost 2 assists a game on around the same percentages. Pretty good. But a rookie improving in his sophomore season isn't particularly interesting. It's more interesting if a player got worse. Isn't that right, MCW? Anyway, what was really noticeable was his improved game come playoff time. From 8.6 in his rookie year, Kawhi averaged almost 14 points in the 2013 playoffs, to go along with 9 rebounds, 1 assist, and almost 2 steals a game. This playoff run is a pretty important one for Kawhi. They swept the Kobe-less Lakers pretty easily. They defeated a young Golden State team who's slowly getting there. Surely, they won't have an enormous impact on Kawhi's career and legacy. He had some really good performances up to that point. An 11-point, 12-rebound game in a Game 2 loss, and a 16-point, 11-rebound Game 6 to finish off the dubs. They went against the grit and grind Memphis Grizzlies in the conference finals, but it was one of the more disappointing series of that postseason. The Spurs finished them off in another sweep, marking Kawhi's first NBA Finals. This time, it was against the Miami Heat, and maybe the best version of any player in NBA history, 2013 MVP LeBron James. He was still with the Heatles, though they did add old man Ray Allen to the team. He's way past his prime. I'm sure he won't contribute a significant amount to the series. The Big Three against the Spurs team basketball. It was so tight that it went to 7 games. And even then, Kawhi was showing glimpses of just how much he can step it up in the playoffs. Of course, he's already the team's best perimeter defender by a mile. So he was on LeBron, but considering that this was 2013 LeBron, he did a really good job on the King. This second-year player, don't forget, was looking like a veteran. Playoff-tested cornerstone. He had LeBron working. He had LeBron looking like this when he was checking into the game.
LeBron James is shooting a free throw.
That face?
He was not happy about that one.
Kawhi had double-doubles for points and rebounds for 4 out of the 7 games, the best being a massive 22 and 11 points with 3 steals in Game 6 in an effort to finish off the Heatles. Sophomore Kawhi almost did it against one of the greatest teams in NBA history, until of course…
James catches, puts up a three. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds.
The shot. Old man Ray Allen had to hit possibly the greatest shot in NBA history to save the series. The shot also turned the tide and the momentum of the series. LeBron James turned in a damn shift and put up 37 points and 12 rebounds in Game 7. Kawhi had 19 points and 16 rebounds of his own, but a monumental hot garbage performance from Danny Green and an underwhelming Tony Parker performance meant that the Heat took the series in the end. Tough break for Kawhi and the Spurs, sure. But the silver lining is that this is extremely valuable playoff experience for such a young player to go up against the best player in the world at the time in the biggest stage possible as a sophomore and being arguably the second best player, sometimes the best player of the Spurs. He developed that dog in him real early. So he was ready to go again in the 2014 season. If this team was going to win a last ring with a Duncan, Parker, Ginobili trio, it had to be this season, on TD's last legs. Fortunately, this year, the Spurs decided to play some of the best and most beautiful basketball in NBA history. It was glorious, I tell you. Seeing a team in the NBA locked down defensively and then just always trying to find the best possible shot on offense with cuts, off-ball screens, and ball movement brings a tear to my eye. The Spurs finished first in the West ahead of the young, high-flying OKC Thunder team with MVP Kevin Durant. They have their eyes set on one thing though, the potential finals rematch with the Heatles. Kawhi Leonard, meanwhile, made another jump. He put up 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. But it was his defense that took the biggest jump. Sparring with the King last year gave him that mojo to be such a menace defensively. He was already probably the best perimeter defender in the league, and he was selected to his all-defensive team that season too. What's important is the playoffs though. And the beauty of the Spurs system is that it's a sustainable system that doesn't have that tendency to fail if the team isn't firing from beyond the arc. Yes, 2018 Houston Rockets, I'm looking at you. Anyway, the Spurs defended the Dallas Mavericks in 7 games, where Kawhi put up pretty pedestrian numbers of 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 assist. He turned it up against the Blazers in the second round though, putting up 17, 8, and 1 on 50-50-75 shooting in a gentleman's sweep. On to the conference finals, that match against the OKC Thunder that everyone projected. Kawhi was leading the 6th leading scorer and one of the 6 Spurs who averaged double digits in points. That offense looked as balanced as possible. So, on to the finals, one of the most hyped rematches in history. Spurs versus Heat for probably the last time. Bron going for his three-peat. Tim Duncan going for one last ring. Well, in the end, it wasn't too much of a contest. LeBron put up 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. But it wasn't enough and was even accused of checking out of that series. He didn't. He just had the best defender in the NBA on him. Kawhi Leonard was a man possessed on defense that series. Add to how he put up 24, 9, and 2 in the last 3 games on 69, 54, 84 splits to close out that series emphatically. The Spurs would dominate in 5 games to win a historic title to end the Heat dynasty. Kawhi Leonard put up 18, 6, and 2, and almost 2 steals to win Finals MVP in just his 3rd year, and helped give the Spurs trio one last ring. And this was when people really considered the notion that this beefed-up role player could actually become one of, if not the best player in the league. He would not disappoint. The next season slowly saw him get the keys to the offense and become the face of the San Antonio Spurs. Kawhi improved 17, 7, 3, and 2 steals in the 2014-15 season, eventually getting his huge hands on the Defensive Player of the Year award, along with the first-team All-Defense selection. The less said about that year's playoffs, though, the better. Next season saw him really become the offensive player we know today, 26, 7, 3, and 2, and his very first All-Star selection. He was also first-team All-NBA, first-team All-Defense, and a dominant Defensive Player of the Year win. Kawhi also led the Spurs to 67 wins that season. Normally, those kinds of stats and that record would get you MVP, but
he is your 2016 Kia Most Valuable Player, Steph Curry.
He did get another All-Defense selection, as well as a first-team All-NBA selection, and second in MVP voting. The Spurs eventually fell to the hands of the OKC Thunder, who went on to take a 3-1 lead against the Warriors. Don't ask them what happened after. Kawhi put up 23, 6, 3, and 3 steals that playoff run. Yet another carry job for him. Next season would see his greatest season in a Spurs jersey, and he continued to be the best player in the league talks. 26, 6, 4, and 2 assists propelled him to 3rd in the MVP race, as well as yet another first-team All-Defense selection and first-team All-NBA selection. He also had some of his greatest performances this season, like a 41-point explosion in an OT win against the Cavs. Another was this ridiculous 39-point game in a 16-point comeback against the Rockets.
34 now for Leonard, raising up for a 3. Water, tough shot. Hard on the attack on Lee to the rim. Blocked by Leonard. Picked up by Today. Blocked by Aldridge. Picked up by Kawhi. The Rockets.
He's also had an all-time 43-point explosion against the Memphis Grizzlies in the playoffs. They matched up with the Golden State Warriors in the 2nd round. However, this is unfortunately where the story ends.
And Leonard gingerly getting up. Again, that's what they call all the time when you get.
Kawhi would miss the rest of the playoffs and essentially the entire 2018 NBA season before getting traded to the Raptors after falling out with San Antonio. It's an unfortunate end, but it was a wild ride with the Spurs and Kawhi. In 6 seasons with the Spurs, not counting the 2018 one, he put up 16 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. He had 21, 7, 3, and 2 in his best 3 seasons from 2015 to 17. More importantly, he got his 2 DPOY awards, 4 All-Defense teams, 2 first-team All-NBA selections, and as high as 2nd in MVP. He was just getting to the peak of his powers before the thing with Zaza happened. So, how good was Spurs Kawhi? Well, he was easily the best perimeter defender in the league. He was also capable of putting up 30 to 40 points and carry his team in the playoffs, but this really wasn't seen to its full potential in San Antonio. Pretty unfortunate that it happened 1 year after getting traded. Still, one of the Spurs' best and most important player after the 2000s, and definitely left an impact with the roster. Absolutely no wonder why Coach Pop has so much respect for him, and why the Spurs haven't been anywhere near contending since he left, at least not yet.